Welcome to the Daily Dosage. I'm Pat Beach.
I'm John Lorge.
We're about to give you a dose of NFL football, both the game and a little fantasy look. So first I want to start off by talking about Reggie Bush. He's fresh off a microfractured knee surgery. And John, how's he looking?
Bush is looking really good for being 90% in camp right now. Physically, he looks like he's actually stronger and a little more cut up, more tone and all that, which is great because he's going in full contact in drills right now and he's not taking it slow. He has gotten knocked down a few times, but that's only kind of got his competitive juices flowing. So I'm expecting big things out of Bush. A lot of guys think Pierre Thomas might be the #1 fantasy back in New Orleans, but I think this is going to be the season that Bush plays all 16 games and makes a huge impact.
Speaking of fantasy, where would you theoretically draft Reggie Bush?
You can draft Bush as early as the 4th round, depending on how secure you feel in his knee. If you can get him to slip in the 5th or 6th round, I think it's a great pick because even if he doesn't play all 16 games, when he does play, he's just a ton of fantasy points. Especially he might get the occasional punt return for a touchdown. So he's never a bad option in fantasy.
Without the Kim Kardashian distraction going on, do you think that's going to lead to a more productive Reggie Bush this season, maybe a bit more focused?
Definitely. It sounds a little stupid to be talking about it, but these off-field issues do make a difference. I mean, when he goes home from the locker room now, what's he going to be thinking about? His mind's going to be on football. He doesn't have to worry about that long-distance relationship.
Yeah, long-distance relationships can be a bit of a killer. So let's jump over to Arizona, and Beanie Wells just sprained his ankle, which brings up all the injury concerns that people have had about him in the past. John, what does this do to Beanie Wells' career and his fantasy standing for this season?
Right now, I'm taking Beanie Wells and I'm knocking him down my big board a little bit because he's a guy that looked to be the premier back in Arizona, but now with this injury, it brings up all the old concerns. So if you're going to draft Beanie Wells, you can't assume that he's going to play all 16 games, and if he does, he's probably going to share a lot more time with Tim Hightower than people thought he would.
Sounds good. So what about Minnesota, a team, the Vikings, that people think may be a championship contender? Percy Harvin just signed a new 5-year contract. What's Harvin going to do for Minnesota this season?
It was really important for Harvin to come into Minnesota, get that deal done, because Brad Childress reported he got about 30 new plays designed for him. So we're going to see Harvin in all sorts of different looks, and if he wasn't in camp getting these reps, then he wouldn't be ready for these unique plays that they're going to do.
Do you think we're going to see Harvin getting some carries, or is it more going to be catches?
Catches, carries, maybe even throws. Harvin's a guy that's comfortable in a wildcat look. If he's going to get carries, I think it might be on end and around reverse type plays, but he's even good enough to line up in the backfield. And with Adrian Peterson, who's not slow, but you have a little bit of a thunder and lightning because Percy Harvin is ultra quick.
So would you draft Percy Harvin in the Fantasy Football League?
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to really reach on him because you're still not sure how many touches he's going to get in the game. But if he's a late round guy, maybe your 4th or 5th wide receiver, I think it's a great pick. He's a guy that could be the offensive rookie of the year.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. And with Minnesota right now, they also had a bit of a quarterback controversy as to who is going to play, Tavares Jackson or Sage Rosenfels. But Tavares Jackson just went down with an injury this week. So what's that going to do with Sage Rosenfels? Is he now going to be the starter?
It looks like it. Tavares sprained his MCL, and he is going to come back. He will be ready to play at the start of the season. But right now, with Sage getting all the snaps in preseason and in practice, it plays a big role. And so I think it will help the Vikings, and they'll be more comfortable playing with one quarterback. But I thought Jackson was a guy that if you have Harvin at quarterback in the Wildcat, you could put him out there as a dummy wide receiver and actually throw him the ball. So Minnesota might not be able to do everything they wanted, but then again, when Jackson is healthy, maybe they will sneak him on the field.
Would you ever draft Sage Rosenfels? I know sometimes he does spell a bit of a disaster for a team.
I don't think I would draft him. I got a few guys down there. I think I would take Pennington over him and a few other quarterbacks before I drafted him. But as a waiver wire guy, if he is the #1 QB in Minnesota, you definitely have to keep your eye on him because they'll get some good matchups. You got to love a team playing the Lions twice a year.
That's true. Everyone likes to play a team that can't win a game. So speaking about running backs, let's shoot over to Buffalo real quick. And Marshawn Lynch tried to appeal a 3-game suspension, and it just didn't quite work out. So what does that do to Marshawn Lynch this season in terms of his production as well as his fantasy?
It might hurt Lynch a little bit because even when he does come back, what shape is he going to be in? Is he going to be ready to take the full load? And will the guys, Fred Jackson and Dominic Rhodes, who've been taking his place, are they going to be ready to give it up? So With Lynch coming back, you have a lot of question marks. But at the same time, if your team's in the playoffs and you have him on your roster, he might be in full form and he might be pretty healthy towards the end of the season. So if you can get Lynch past the 5th round, maybe the 6th or 7th round, if he really starts to slide in fantasy drafts, he could be a great option if you have the ability to stash him on your roster.
So now let's jump over and start talking about wide receivers a little bit. One of the most productive wide receivers in the games that he plays, Brandon Marshall, just got hurt this week. What's that going to do to his season?
Pulled hamstring. It's not too serious, and he was looking really good before he pulled his hamstring. But this is a guy that's coming off hip surgery this offseason, so I have a lot of question marks about Marshall. He might not ever have those huge injuries that knock him out for the season, but he's the type of guy that could miss some games or miss some snaps. When he's healthy, when he's full, he's super productive, but right now I'm just not sure. I think there's a few other guys I'd rather take at that first, second receiver area.
So then where would you look to draft Marshall, a guy that, may play around 10 or 12 games due to his injury situations?
Yeah, Marshall, you're seeing him sometimes in the 3rd round, sometimes in the 4th. If you can get him after the 4th round, I'd take a serious look at him. Some people will still draft him high because they're high on him. You got a lot of Bronco fans out there. So someone like me, I probably will never have Marshall on my team because he's just too big of a question mark.
Let's talk about two of my favorite receivers, the most highly publicized guys, Terrell Owens and Chad Ochocinco. Are they going to have comeback seasons or what?
I anticipate comeback seasons from them. The Bengals and Bills, they may not win a ton of games, but I think they're going to throw the ball around a lot. Both guys were working out in LA this summer, and they both say they're in the best shape of their life, even though they're both 30-year-olds. So I anticipate some big things out of them, and I think they can do it. They're two guys that they talk a lot, but they know they need to put their money where their mouth is if they want to actually get the limelight still. So I do anticipate some big things out of them.
Do you think it may hurt Chad Ochocinco a little bit now that TJ Houshmandzadeh is going to be playing with the Seahawks?
It could, but at the same time, Cincinnati signed Lavernius Coles, and it really rests on Carson Palmer. If he's not the quarterback there, Ochocinco doesn't have faith in any of the backups. So if Palmer's healthy, you can expect big things, but if he's not, I don't think it's the deflection of pressure. I think it's just that he doesn't have faith in the quarterback.
Speaking of Houshmandzadeh a little bit, he's now playing with the Seattle Seahawks, a team kind of poised to get back to the playoffs. What do you think his season's going to look like?
I expect big things out of Houshmandzadeh. He could potentially get 100 catches. The Seahawks are switching up their offense a little bit. They're going to pound the ball more, but still with Hasselbeck coming back, he's going to be healthy. I think he was healthy enough to play last year, but they wanted to rest him. Seahawks are going to be looking to get into the playoffs, and so I really like Houshmandzadeh, and from a fantasy perspective, he's kind of flying under the radar right now, so he could be in line for a pretty big year.
So let's talk about T.O. and the Buffalo Bills a little bit. Buffalo tends to like to pound the ball. Are they going to open it up, maybe throw some deep passes to Owens?
I think so. They're a conservative team, but they've been practicing a lot of no-huddle offense, and when you have Lee Evans and T.O. out there, you really want to get them the ball. So we don't know how much you're going to use this no-huddle look, but if they come out and start the game, or if they come out at any time and go no-huddle, you can really catch the defense off guard. And Trent Edwards is looking to get the ball deep this year. He wants to kind of get rid of that reputation of being a safe guy or someone who can't throw deep. So I expect Evans to get some deep touchdowns, and I expect Owens to get deep touchdowns. Both receivers in the Bills. They might be hit or miss a few games, but when they hit, it's really going to be big.
So who's your Tier 1 group of wide receivers, and does Ochocinco or T.O. fit into this group?
No, I have Ochocinco and T.O. right below there, kind of around Marshall. But up top, I have Moss, Andre Johnson, and Larry Fitzgerald. Those are the three premier guys, but they're not perfect. Andre Johnson, if Houston's winning a few more games, they don't need to throw the ball late for those late touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Fitzgerald, right now things look great there, but with Warner, if they're not winning football games, they might switch to Liner, and he'll have to adjust to the new quarterback. And then Moss, as long as Brady's there, you know he's going to score a lot of touchdowns. But if something does happen to Brady, then you better watch out.
So there you have it. We just finished up talking about receivers and running backs. Check out some new footage later on this week where we're going to talk about some more fantasy football stuff. That's all for the Daily Dosage. Thanks for tuning in.
Later. You got questions, we got answers. And if you play fantasy football, let us know in the comments or shoot us an email, because we're starting up a league and we want you.